Financial friends and family. So the whole of the country wants you know to stop lying. Cause the next election, in a new party we voting. Like you forget your people, once you in power, and the move is evil, yeah, the whole place sour. I know that we discover, it's 2% that they offer. This is one little thing that I want all you to remember. We've heard up for all your life. You could do much better. Gas prices going up too high. The cost of living is getting harder. Guys, never put him up on the right flame. I don't own the right side of the music blade. Neither the melody. I'm a man, okay?
Testing 1 2 1 2. Is this test working? Testing.
Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to all and sundry. I thought, of course, I will put in a bit of patriotism tonight and to, of course, puncture the conscience of those, whether you are in the diaspora or you are local or regional, wherever you are, and you have an interest in Trinidad and Tobago. Certainly, tonight, the place to be is on the corridor transformation to, of course, get information that you would, I say, generally not get anywhere else. Or if you get it from a perspective here that is probably different and, of course, unique to the rest. That being as it may, what we have planned, of course, as normal, we try to give instantaneous proof of what we are saying and what we propose to do and what, of course, is the contemporary issue of the day. Of course, we ought not to pass or in any way generate or the perception of an oversight on any issue. And I want to, of course, tonight, whilst I promised, of course, to bring Sinanan's version of the multiple versions of what transpired with OAS. And it is critical because it's $7 billion and now Dr. Wowry has said it's $8 billion. So it is a source and cause for extreme concern for any Trinbagonian, and especially in circumstances where that money seemed to have gone down the drain or is going down the drain because the project is not yet finished. And I understand some 4 other parts of that highway has been left out. And of course, it clearly would redound to our benefit to understand why that is so, one, and what will happen in the future having regard to the critical nature of that highway and what was in store for the opening up of the deep south of the island and the necessity for economic activities beyond and recognizing that oil, gas and petrochemical may be a thing of the past. And of course, as the international agreements are are talking about climate change in the Paris Agreement, we are talking about 2030. So we have just under 6 years in order to make certain that we are able to put and prepare and position our economy to absorb not just the onslaught or the reality, but to also position it so that future generations, some of us may not be around, but certainly to leave Trinidad and Tobago in a state, in a place that can adapt and adjust to the new circumstances of the world, or should I say the world, recognizing that there is a greater danger in the further exploitation of fossil fuel and fossil energy, so that renewables and other forms such as sunlight and of course waves and hydroelectric current, wind farms, and we can go on and on, including of course biofuel, which of course can be adapted, or put another way, engines can be adapted. Those wheels of industry can be adapted to, of course, biofuel. And of course, it is a fuel being made by, or from, I should say, biological items such as corn. Yes, such as corn. And of course, there are other areas where experimentation is taking place, including, of course, sugar. Yes, the very sugar that we used to grow here. Of course, I know that Cuba is engaging in that kind of a situation simply because they don't have the bio, which is much cheaper at this time. But if it goes out, at least they would have had a tremendous head start in terms of biofuel as they converted their farmlands and their sugarcane plantations to the production, ultimately not just of sugar, but certainly of biofuel for industry. So that being as it may, and talking about that tonight, I want to talk about NIQUAN. Of course, we will leave Sinanan for another time, because you see, this government has this proclivity, this uncanny tendency to destroy, and whatever they put their hands on seem not to be well thought out, but it is about a knee-jerk response, and that whimsicality and that uncertainty that it evokes cannot be for good government, good governance, a sustainable society, a reliable public sector initiative and leadership, that the government of the day, that is supposed to be the leader and the, of course, the decision makers coming out of the electoral process through our democratic principles, that says that we have a duty as a people to elect the best system that we know, mankind knows, for ensuring that there is, of course, a kind of decision-making process that is or involves the input of the people, and that input is brought on by what is called representative government, where we go to the polls and elect through our index fingers our leaders. But where that has broken down, as we have seen with this administration, then we have a duty, as we are doing tonight, to talk out, apart from highlighting, and of course individually and collectively we must make a decision. But the ultimate decision, just as how and the vehicle that was used to get them there is the same vehicle must be used to get them to hell out, and that is the electoral process. There are other developments that I would like to share with you by Friday, but of course Friday is my day off, so I will look at it on Saturday. But by that time, I think the issue that you are yearning to hear, involving of course yours truly and the highest executive office in the land, let me just say that you will get an appreciation as to where we are at on that matter. I don't need to read and spell for you according to my mother. But of course, let's go straight to Naikwan. I think it is important. And let me also say that we are streaming on both, of course, YouTube and Facebook. Things are not perfect as yet because we still have some static with respect to the streaming, but certainly every other thing is in place because at one time we couldn't even dream to be on YouTube. Now YouTube, of course, is part and parcel of the delivery mechanism, capacity, and ability of the corridor transformation. So we are moving places. It might be slower than what some would like, but as Confucius, as I always say, would say, the longest journey begins with what? A single step. And the race is not for the swiftest. It's who can what? Endure to the end. Who can endure to the end? So, as some people may say, the corridor transformation is a jackass in a horse race. But so too was the hare and the tortoise. And what happened? The tortoise ended up, of course, winning because of patience, tenacity, and the ability, of course, to not give up. And so that is the reality of the situation as far as the corridor transformation is concerned. We will get there eventually. That being as it may, let us go straight, of course, to the issue that I want to raise one time, and that is Naikwan. Why Naikwan? Because apart from blowing up after Dr. Rowley cut the ribbon, and that seemed to be a trend, a modus operandi of this government, when of course he literally inaugurated the introduction of sandals, and that blew up. He told us that the Sea Bridge and Tobago will never suffer. That blew up. He told us that, let's go straight to the lines. Pleasant good night, welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night, welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, good night.
Good night.
Just listening to it and just editing free. Over to movie.
All right, let me.
I thought I just start, he just cut off.
All right, let me find out what is happening there. Boy, oh boy, we having some internet problem. Yeah, we find some internet problem, but we will try our best. Let me just check and see what is happening there. What I suggest is that you reboot your system. Let me reboot mine and see what is happening here as well. Yes, indeed. Let me just see what is happening here. So I'm rebooting as well. I've observed that, and let's see what is happening. So, but in the meantime, of course, the show must go on, so to speak. The issues must be raised, and you are quite right. I am seeing something that is strange. Yes, I'm seeing something that is strange. Let's see. Try rebooting. I don't know if that would work because I'm not an expert, but I'm doing that myself. So I would see whether or not I observe what the caller has observed. Let's see. I have rebooted, and let's see what is happening. Yes. Reboot. Press F5 on your computer, on your keyboard, and that should assist, because I just did that on mine and I'm seeing it back up. So press F5, the F5 knob, that will reboot on your keyboard, and that should assist in getting you back on where you were before, because I've just done that and I'm seeing it now. That being as it may, of course, let's get straight, of course, to the issue. I have some other developments that I want to tell you about. Of course, we are going to start some advertisement as well to try to not only bring in the income that is required, but to service the and get a better internet, or several providers we would want to engage. So not just one. We have, of course, TSTT, but we want to get, of course, others, including, of course, that of Digicel, to be part and parcel of the cadre of providers, so that where there is static, we just switch it to the other one. So we are looking at it. In the meantime, we have to, of course, do with what we have, and this is what we have. But let's go straight, of course, to Naikwan. Remember, and I was saying before the call that Naikwan has been under the radar, or preferred to be under the radar, because of a multiple of sins again. And I was making the point of the disaster that every time Dr. Rowley cuts a ribbon, and no doubt, if the trend continues, and no doubt it will, then we will see some disastrous circumstances surrounding the highway to Point Fortin. He told us in no uncertain terms that we have to pay back $1 billion, but they are in court, and he is very derogatory in terms of his statement of the judges that may be adjudicated on this matter. And he say, if they drink a babash, very insulting. But as we know him to be a cover-up of his incompetence, impotence, mismanagement, public office abuse, and of course misappropriation not only of the financial resources of the country by pursuing projects that none of us could ever dream as far as the funds are concerned, but to benefit from, simply because, as today on the ground report, we said that why are you focusing on libraries at this time, and a plethora of community centers? Why? And we have concluded, frankly, that it is about preparing for elections and the generation of slush funds, and Dr. Rowley's determination. And in such circumstance, when a person is determined, they make mistakes. But in this particular case, where criminal conduct is part and parcel of the whole apparatus, and then we are talking about looking for funds to complete Balize House, so that he could say that somehow he has accomplished something, when in fact it was done with what I consider to be dirty money, blood money, yours and my children's patrimony that was exploited and destroyed. And possibly, if we do not get rid of them sooner rather than later, it may be forever and permanently. And the regrets will only be, of course, you and I, current generation, that failed to, of course, take action when it was necessary. You see, it is said that those who are prepared to ignore the history and the reality of their circumstance, then they are doomed for the negative fallout and repercussions that those activities that they had the opportunity so to prevent and intervene and preempt, they will have to regret. The society will have to regret. And I am talking about, of course, that scenario that is usually an analogy that is usually ascribed, or should I say support, such a position. And that is when the Jews were being persecuted by Hitler, there was a priest, a religious individual, can't remember his name now, but he wrote a famous book with this analogy, that when the Nazis came for my distant neighbor, I said and did nothing. When they came back for the next neighbor closer to me, I said and did nothing. When the one closer to me, the Nazis came for, I said and did nothing. And when they came for my immediate neighbor, I said and did nothing. And by that time they came for me. And when they came for me, there was no one to talk on my behalf. I thought that was important. Pastor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pastor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pastor, good night.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome to the corridor.
Mr. Lennox.
Hey,
Mr. Lennox.
tell me.
Good night, sir.
Good night to you. Good night. Yes?
Yeah, man. I heard you talking about when the program started. You were talking about the sugar industry.
Yes.
Yeah, so, sugar industry in Trinidad shut down this, so, but right now, the company building a sugar industry in the port of Milton, Canada, and they are buying sugar cane in order to create operation, and these guys in Trinidad just closed down the operation.
Yeah. Totally myopic.
So that's what I just want to talk about. The way that the sugar industry Trinidad shut down. Now these are in because sugar doesn't grow in Canada.
Right.
And here now these guys have been a multi-million operation here, buying sugar for bringing it here and refining, grinding, refining, and producing.
Yeah.
It's a big money operation. So that's what
I will certainly, I am not familiar with the specific case, but I will. Yeah, thank you very much. But I will certainly look into it, because that's a development, because it appears that it's a kind of new what is called colonial industrial development, because remember when there was, of course, the sugarcane or the plantation economy. Remember in the 17th 18th century, when of course slavery was the major source of income, of labor for that particular industry. Well, what they would do is grind the sugar here and send it, of course, for processing, and then send it back to Trinidad or the Caribbean, and we will be eating or consuming a so-called higher grade product, but have to pay more for it. That being as it may, of course, I know that our external contributor, Miss Santa Cruz, was on the line. I had to decline her because someone else was there. So a pleasant good night. Let me see if it is her again. There are two calls, so let me decline one. I'll decline this one, and let me see if it's the same call. Let me accept. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Or like I've declined both because I'm watching two monitors, seeing two numbers. So that is part and parcel of the learning process. Let's go again. Let's go again. Okay. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. All right. The same number is on both monitors. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello, Mr. Lennox.
Yes. Good night.
Hello.
Good night. I'm hearing you. Loud and clear. I'm hearing you. Loud and clear. Go ahead. Oh. Pleasant good night. Pleasant good night. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Mr. Lennox.
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we were talking about the sugar industry and we get cut off for some reason.
Yes. I was making the point
Yeah,
about
man. So
yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a deal that is already signed.
Okay.
And,
All right. But I'm going to look into it.
I'm giving you full-time information, man. But it's
Good.
already signed and these guys are good in this industry.
All right. Good.
That's for sugar cane, which these guys and schools are with us.
Yeah, boy. So we're gonna talk about it. All right. We're gonna talk about it.
Right, man. You carry with the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, let me just get this call. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Things are moving fast and furious, even though the technology wants to slow us down. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Yes, let's go again. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night.
Pleasant good night to you.
Yes.
A pleasant good night to you and to everybody on the chat.
Go ahead. I'm hearing you loud and
You
clear.
hearing me now?
Loud and clear. Yes. Loud and clear. Yes. Perfect.
Hello?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Lennox, we are not here. We are not hearing the callers.
All right. You're not hearing the callers.
We are not hearing them.
All
We
right.
have not heard a word that the caller said.
All right.
Yeah, we are not. I don't know if they can hear me because I want Matty Boom Boom to hear me.
All right.
So
Let's
what
see.
I have to say here tonight, I want to teach it that empty dustbin something. All right?
All right.
I hope they can hear me.
I hope so too.
Lennox,
Yeah.
Not that I didn't call last night, but I was on the chat out in some fire. Right? So I'm here tonight. And whoever got in, I don't care. So be it. Lennox, I want to deal with Avery Brown. Lennox.
Go ahead.
Let me take a sip of water to deal with Avery Brown.
All right. You go ahead. You go right ahead.
David Naked, in his contribution, said that David Naked said in his contribution that the UNC was a government for the poor.
Yes.
That is a fact. They could jump high, they could jump low. That is a fact. Facts don't change.
Yes.
Because Mrs. Prasad Bissessar did everything in this country, mainly to help the poor. Because when you are, and also with education, because when you are educated, you don't sound and act ignorant like Marky Butterfly.
I hear you.
David Larkin said that UNC was a government for the poor. Miss Amy Brown jumped up on his contribution to talk about all who came in the partnership government poor and left us millionaires. But I want to tell her something here tonight. Nobody in the partnership came in poor. They all came in well off. That's a fact. They were doctors, they were engineers, they were teachers, they were lecturers. Not like the scrap that the body say, oh, take up. And some of them tried to sound intelligent. No. They were educated people, well-off people. Lawyers, a lot of lawyers were there. But I want to remind her, the partnership government didn't have 600 plus recusals and made billionaires out of friends, family, and financiers. No, that was the PNM. That is the PNM right now. That man is sitting in a cabinet where people recusing themselves over 600 times for profit. But you come to talk about who came in poor in the partnership government and left millionaires. But I want to ask her, give us a list. If you know that a place, give us a list.
Indeed.
Be afraid to say be man enough and give us a list. Yeah, because if you have that, come and tell us who they are.
Yeah.
Point them out.
Yeah, you
report them to the FIU.
You'll be at a loss if you say be man enough because
report them.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, report them. Report them to the FIU. Rolling all what you see for an supposedly intelligent man. Well, we know he's not so intelligent because the Foreign Affairs Ministry is a real suspect. And he have the gall to say that people love Trinidad. People love us when we were rated because of the PNM government. Number 6 in the world in crime. when David Dakin talk about the young black men and them. Who committed the most crimes, Lennox? It's a fact. Abu Bakr said it. Shrimanyard. He said it, not me. Everybody knows Selvin Ryan. Everybody knows. I think he quoted from Selvin Ryan. That was David Naked. Quoting from Selvin Ryan.
Yes.
And you come to tell me something differently? Rowley did nothing, absolutely nothing for the young black male in this country. Lennox, look at what they did with the Pak Choi project in La Hoqueta.
Yeah.
That was a perfect example
Brutal.
of the way PNM treat their own.
Yeah, brutal.
The next fool, was the independent senator, Thomas Ahi. Wants to know that if the young men who were put to lie down in the mud when they broke the COVID curfew, if they were of a different class and hue, if that would have done. Now tell me, well, we know them, you know how independent senators are chosen, right?
Yes.
That is the next PNM party group number one.
So the questions start to come to the fore, but go ahead.
Gary Griffith was doing his job. Gary Griffith was doing this job when those boys and them broke the curfew. So there you they're showing in Lennox that because they are a different hue and class, they can break the law. Why didn't she, like Stuart Young, open the pie hole at that time and say Gary Griffith was wrong? But no, you run now in the Senate, in the budget debate, to talk about a different hue and cry if they will be lying now on the ground. Did a different hue and cry broke the COVID curfew? No. And that is why we will always remain behind. Because all they see is race and class. They don't see right and wrong. And all of them like a set of empty dustbins banging on the pavement looking for relevance.
Lennox,
Lennox, thanks a lot for listening to me and take care and have a good night.
Yes, indeed. Well said, Miss Santa Cruz. Well said. But on the question of that incident, because I am not privy to the information that Miss Santa Cruz just disclosed to us or shared with us. Let me say that one time. But my common sense will tell me that is two different scenarios. The first scenario, with respect, of course, to those young people that were made to lie down in silots, they knew that they were breaking the law. They knew that they were not supposed to be on the beach or outside. But yet still they were making TikTok and other veil as it was, but certainly defying, of course, and calling Gary Griffith the Commissioner of Police name at the time. And what they did, they initiated, of course, I talk about the police here, a sufficient dragnet using, I assume, technology to track where they were. And then they found them on the beach sure enough, breaking the law. So they dealt with them in that way, because they could have done different. They could have charged all of them, but that didn't happen. In the case of the Westmoreland situation, these people did not televise or promote their conduct, one. But even if they did promote their conduct, because some citizen said, but listen, look, these people having a party, but they understood, those persons who were having the party run a pool, they understood it was private premises, and as the commissioner of police then, and is the law, and was the law proven subsequently, that the police had no jurisdiction in going into people's place, into their spaces. Similar to, of course, no one has right to invade other people's premises. They would have been seen not different, or put another way, similar to the bandits who would invade people's home and privacy. That is what it had. Nothing to do with class. It had to do with the discrepancy or the inability of the police to have the power to enter people's premises. And the commissioner of police then, Gary Griffith, said it. He said that it was a question of using brute force and going into the people's premises, and then after that the police would have been sued right, left and center, and enrich off of us, you and I, themselves even further, because they were part and parcel of the rich clan. That's the point I'm making. And I want to say that, as fate will have it, Dr. Rowley and several government ministers were invited to a wedding of one of their major financiers around, of course, the Queen's Park Savannah. And cars were packed up, and of course the whole question of community spread, a mass infection scenario for the pandemic disease called COVID-19 was real. But, and I agree, the police took no action. But why? Because I am sure they recognize that it was the upper echelons of the decision-making processes in Trinidad as far as public and private is concerned. And as they say, cockroach have no place in a cockfight. No place. Or put another way, they would have been grass, whilst of course elephants were battling, and they would have been trampled upon. All kinds of negatives would have come out of that. I am not making any excuses. I'm merely demonstrating the defect of the law on the one hand, and the encouragement and promotion, believing that they are above the law on the other hand, connected directly to Rowley and his minions, who are prepared, as they are doing now, to break the law and believe that the law does not apply to them. And of course, immediately one can talk about Daryl Smith. One can talk about Rowley himself, that has breached the criminal law. One can talk about the entire cabinet that took a decision to close down Petrotrin. That is criminal. That is evil. And as to add insult to injury, Rowley puts his personal lawyer, Michael Kwamina, as head of the legacy company, the Trinidad and Tobago Energy Company, petroleum company, to head that company that is responsible for all of the witness statements and the witnesses in relation to the fake oil matter that we have exhaustively And there may be some other elements, so I can't say exhaustive. I have to say, of course, we have critically examined. And it is clear that the closing down of Petrotrin was to save Rowley. And if you want to sacrifice 1 point something million people, minus that 1% that Rowley has gravitated to, who is a minuscule, a infinitesimal group in the society. But because you have the power, you close down a whole industry and catapult 60,000 and counting persons in the southwestern peninsula to a life of poverty, drudgery, and uncertainty. That is criminal. And then, to compound the problem, you still went to arbitration. And I'm saying so against the background that if it was Kamala Prasad Bissessa who had such a scenario when she was Prime Minister, by her friend being brought into arbitration, and the arbitration result indicated that not only must that person get money from the state, but also their contract would have been breached and they got it back, Rowley would have been up and down the place. Imagine, he has to give back $1 billion to OAS, and he went as far as to commenting on the integrity and sullying the integrity and the veracity and the sincerity of the judges by saying that if they drink a babash, this man is totally out of control, and he is going to find himself at the country, if it believes that the tolerance level has passed the apex of tolerance, the zenith of tolerance, then that level of provocation that Rowley has instituted on the people, and believing that he is insulated, that he is isolated, that he can use state resources and the office of Prime Minister to, of course, generate the kind of iniquities and the kind of self-indulgence and the kind of I am aloof of you all and you cannot touch me, and using the office of Prime Minister and government to project that kind of behavior. Dr. Rowley, I want to tell you, stop provoking the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Rowley, I repeat, stop provoking the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because whether you are in office or out of office, there is a saying that the evil you do always follow you. The evil you do always follow you, Dr. Rowley. Stop provoking the people of Trinidad and Tobago. People, I trust that you got a better reception as far as the callers are concerned. Call in and tell me if you are not hearing the callers, because I did some what I consider to be logical and by way of deductive reasoning, made some adjustments to the delivery and to the coming and goings as far as the not only the volumes but also the audio. So please tell me if there is any improvement in terms of hearing the callers. My voice seemed to be all right, but of course the callers seem not to be received by you. So please tell me when the next call probably comes in, you can, of course, treat with that. Don't forget, of course, the number to call 337-6940. That's the number to call now to get me now. 337-6940 is flashing across the screen in that green band. And then, of course, you have the other one, 336-6594. 336-6594. That is the number to call my assistant, where, of course, any assistant that you would like to engage us in, whether assistance for us or for yourself in terms of other matters, because I want to tell you, over the last couple of days, we have been very fortuitous in getting certain services ready. Small fee, but nonetheless, whether it's legal, whether you're setting up a business, whether you are looking and searching for property in terms of getting it from the Ministry of Legal Affairs. We have a search clerk expert, very efficient, that will talk to you directly. You don't have to talk to me, but of course you could complain to me if you don't get the service. I can tell you that. But of course, if you have a search to make because you want to sell or buy a piece of property, or you want, of course, some legal advice or assistance. As you know, I am also the head of Litigant in Person Trinidad and Tobago, and it's on that basis I am, of course, pursuing my own action against Dr. Rowley. I don't want to say anymore. All right? But the fact of the matter is that we have a duty and responsibility, because these services are extremely expensive. Today, for example, I did what is called a caveat for a woman who came to me crying, and she was, of course, distressed because some skullmans engaged in skullduggery and trying, of course, to deprive her of her husband's bequeathed, I wouldn't say property, but certainly negotiation for the purchase of a property, and therefore she has some interest in it and has been on the compound since he died. There's somebody with questionable deed and questionable ownership saw that she was vulnerable and that she was exposed and tried to, of course, evict her, summarily claiming that the property is his. Well, of course, she came and I told her that one of the ways we can, of course, stop that from happening, because there may be the question of false deed, the involvement of the fraud squad, and a number of other agencies that can, even though the matter is before the court right now, the High Court, for determination, but the alleged owners, or who she said that are fraudsters, has been taking action in spite of the matter being before the court. Well, only recently what we did, one, and I did all of the documentation, of course, wrote it to the Police Complaints Authority and the Commissioner, talking about the inaction of the police, because it appears that the police have been involved in this whole sordid and what I consider to be uncanny behavior and exercise and victimization of this woman. The evidence is clear. I read it, so I can tell you. I don't want to go into much details. And the other part of it, of course, is to get a fiat to say to the Ministry of Legal Affairs when and if they want to sell the property or dispose of it, that it is in dispute. The fiat is to say that the property is in dispute, and until this other individual, the woman in this case, matter is, or put another way, must be taken on board, and it cannot be sold without her involvement and, of course, addressing the concerns that she would have had because she has an interest in the property. Of course, tomorrow she will be serving the various parties with respect to that fiat, whilst, of course, they await the outcome at the level of the High Court. I mean, there are people who will take advantage, and Rowley and they are like political kobo. they will take advantage of the ordinary people. We saw it, of course, with the introduction of the property tax. We saw it with the introduction of the so-called cotton notes to be exchanged for polymer notes. A most bizarre, where they dig into, frankly, your mattress money and dispossess people of their money. That was part of that scheme, only for them to flush the banks, their 1% friends who own these banks, with money, because the bankers developed a scheme as well, or they executed a scheme obviously known to the government, that if you bring $100,000, they will say that they don't have enough, especially if you qualify or if you meet the criteria to get the exchange going. They then tell you that they don't have enough of the polymer money and you have to open a bank account, and they will only give you 50% or 50,000 of the 100,000 that you would have put in the bank. That is what this government is engaged in. It is criminal behavior. It is mafiaism. And in the case of the fake oil matter, that the entire cabinet came together to try to exculpate Dr. Rowley from answering his role in that scenario, having confessed that the man, A.V. Gillen, is his friend. We see that a criminal investigation was launched into that matter. Gary Griffith told us that it is a front burner issue. It is not a dead issue. It is not a back burner issue. And they were waiting, of course, for experts to measure the tanks to see to what extent that fraud was perpetrated. We hear nothing about it, and we hear, of course, the installation of Earl Christopher, and we see that no information is now coming, and the putting of your own lawyer to deal with the information connected to the fake oil and your own involvement, Rowley's involvement, shows a perversion of the course of criminal justice. Let me repeat, that is a classic case of the perversion of the criminal justice in this country by the highest executive officer in the land. Talking about the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, put his own lawyer to superintend, of course, what became the decision of the arbitration, and his friend A.V. Gillen, the company that has been accused of that fake oil scheme, is now high and dry and has been rewarded only because Rowley is in the chair of Prime Minister and abused with his cabinet and conspired with his cabinet to pervert the course of criminal justice. And that in itself is not only corruption, but it offends the Integrity in Public Life Act. They have a lot to pay for. They have a lot to answer when they would have exited office by you and I utilizing this. But let's get back, of course, to Naikwan. Naikwan, you see, it has attracted my attention, Naikwan, not only because of the over $100 million that was loaned to them by Republic Bank and the circumstances under which they got it. Not only because a special arrangement was made through the authority of the minister himself to provide that company with scarce gas, yes, from NGC, and from a company that was developed to actually provide that Naikwan entity with gas. Not only is the owner, the substantive owner, the de facto owner, the fellow called Gill, was the man who organized in Washington that telephone call as a lobbyist for the PNM that was utilized by and paid by the PNM when Rowley came into government, utilizing our money. They caused that telephone call to come from Donald Trump. Rowley, of course, pretending that it was because of his importance. And we see that unfolding on a daily basis in Trinidad as well, when he runs to, of course, Washington, and he runs to the Bahamas, and he runs, of course, to Canada, trying to play that somehow he is this crumbling and, of course, a very incompetent and a very inauspicious, somehow he is a regional and international statesman, that pedophile and that rapist. Yes, I must, of course, say that pedophile and rapist called Rowley, he goes and rubbing shoulders on our strength and disgracing us in the process. So people, I thought it was important to make that introductory as far as NICON is concerned. I don't have anybody with me in studio, but it's making pretty hot here and the fan is not on. So you would forgive me if I go and engage the fan so that I don't have to sweat on air. I don't need to. So I have both a fan and air condition here, but one complements the other. So just give me 1 second, and then of course we will start the NICON. But in the meantime, of course, let me start the NICON scenario. I think that will be the best thing, so that we do not lose any serious time as far as that is concerned. Let us go straight, of course, to NICON and what has transpired there. As I said, when I come back, I will, of course, talk about the circumstances that caused me to use and to discuss NICON tonight, rather than continuing with the OOS scenario. But of course, we have several developments there as well. The presentation of Dr. Carson Charles, who was head of NITCO, that was responsible for that particular entity under the UNC. And then, of course, we had as well the regional credit rating agency downgrading NICON as well. Yes, that is what is happening. Total disaster. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor.
Lennox, a pleasant good night again.
Yes.
It was Martin Niemöller in 1946 that wrote that thing about it came for the communists.
That's right.
And I didn't say a word.
That's right.
Etc., etc., etc.
Thank you very much.
And you know, only today I shared that today with a lot of people.
Yes. That's important.
It was he that wrote it at that time. And you see, this is why, Lennox, if we don't defend things, right, being silent and neutral is not an option when advantage is being taken of people.
Yes.
You have to take a stand. You have to do something about it. And secondly, the people on YouTube are complaining that they are not getting audio.
Audio? All right.
That's just my little short one for the road.
All right.
Right? Yeah, the audio on YouTube. Right, but apparently the ones here on Facebook, well, some are saying they're hearing us good. No, they're hearing good, right?
Yeah,
okay,
it appears, because I just made some adjustments when the complaints came to me. But as I said, I'm not an expert. I'm alone here now. A cough has put me into the deep blue sea, and I have to swim, meaning that I have to learn as quickly as possible or implement what I've learned so far. And I think I just switched on the YouTube channel that I have monitoring as well on another monitor, and it's sounding fine. Just listen to it. Totally, tonight, the place to be is on the corridor transformation. So so it appears that my adjustment has borne fruit. The other issue as well, of course, is whether or not people. You just heard, of course, our external contributor, Ms. Santa Cruz. If you could tell me whether you heard her clearly, pellucidly, and whether or not there is some difficulty with the audio, I will try before the end of the program to adjust so that we would be well prepared for tomorrow, should in case there continues to be a difficulty. But certainly, as I said, I will put on the NICON, I'll introduce the NICON matter, and as I said, as to why I have preempted the continuation of the OS, not that I'm finished. And look, as we talk that, look, Sinanan is there. Well, he is next to, of course, engage in cacophonous babblings. Yes, cacophonous babblings. It irks the ears, and he comes across as a total buffoon. But that being as it may, let us go straight, of course, to Daikwan and what is happening there. So you see, Daikwan, a dangerous entity, no doubt, that has blown up. I think that would not have any audio in it. And let me just check to make sure. Let me just check to make sure that that doesn't have an audio attached to it. Let me just play it again to make certain. If not, I'll go to the next clip. Let's go again. No, it doesn't have an audio attached to it. So I am going to dismiss that and go to the other one. Yes.
As he officially opened NICON Energy's gas-to-liquid plant at Pointe-a-Pierre on Monday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the plant was a prime example of successful development.
In 2018, when NICON acquired the plant, Petrotrin received a cash payment of $10 million US, with the remaining $25 million US to be paid in preference shares in the new venture.
Liquids the plant on Monday, hailing it as a triumph for the country. The 2,400 barrels per day plant produces high-performance, low-emissions energy products. This is expected to generate $2 billion in taxes and statutory payments to the government over the life of the project. Nikwan GTL is the first commercial plant of its type in the Western Hemisphere. Speaking at the opening ceremony, Dr. Rowley said this gas-to-liquids plant is a prime example of the successful development of the country's export potential, higher value added through the collaboration of the banking sector, and the government. Group CEO of Nikwan Energy said the plant has a local content rate in excess of 90% and had been financed regionally, which he noted was a first for a major energy infrastructure project in the Caribbean.
Diesel made by the recently opened NICON GTL plant in Pointe-a-Pierre could be used for local consumption. The statement was made by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, responding to a question from the opposition on the recent opening of the plant. Dr. Rowley confirmed that the plant has already started its production following the official opening of the gas-to-liquids plant in Pointe-a-Pierre.
It should be available to the local market because it is meant to be to satisfy the local and the foreign market. The first products have only just come off the plant. So the member would be a little patient. We expect that we would either use the product locally, or sell it, or a combination is an addition, our diversification.
Member for Pointe-a-Pierre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 2 to the Prime Minister. Given that the NICON GTL plant is now operational, and there was an agreement with the state to purchase all the offtake from the plant. Could the Honourable Prime Minister state payments for these products will be made in US dollars or TT dollars?
Prime Minister. Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, just for clarification, the agreement between NICON and other business operators still in place. NICON's arrangement with Petrotrin Heritage and Nikon sells zero sulfur diesel, which fetches a premium of 25% above the market price, and it will be sold in US dollars. So it's a US dollar transaction.
Several state-run agencies are investigating a blast that shattered the early morning quiet in South Trinidad on Wednesday. The explosion which occurred at the Nikon gas to liquids plant in affected a wide cross-section of the southern part of the island.
I have a big problem. I've been going on for some years. Come to stop this stuff. It's been too long. People have been traumatized and scared. Before investigation, under proper investigation from the EMA, and the Ministry of Energy. Before Nikon just start to cover up this battle this morning. I want this thing to stop. I want a proper investigation. From the EMA, and the Ministry of Energy. Ministry. Before Nikon tried to cover up Bacchanal and Hazard this morning in Marabella. People come out and support. It is serious. Before the start of the plan, of Nikon, then we receive clearance and before the plan stop, because Revan got in. The man got a Revan here. So everything's supposed to be in the clear. The investigation team investigating report. Maintenance report, and test report, before anything starts up. Because this is a bomb. Marabella people have been suffering for the longest time. It's fire, it's bomb, it's oil. Children traumatized this morning with this bomb. People glass break. Children can't go and sleep again. Dog running, glass shutter, and nobody has come to see us as yet.
The Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, the Environmental Management Authority, and the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services are all likely to be busy over the next few days. As these three state agencies are now investigating the circumstances which led to Wednesday's blast at the Nikon gas to liquids plant. At 6:30 a.m., an explosion from the company's located on the compound of the Point of Pierre refinery sent shockwaves across the countryside. People who reside as far as the village of Siparia, Hoover, and even reported hearing the explosion.
Lennox, good night again. Lennox,
yes.
based on the chat, YouTubers are still having a lot of problems.
Wow, I don't know what is happening here.
So, you have some work to do to fix that, alright?
All right, good, thanks.
They're still having a lot of problems, yes.
All right, and I
They're
see...
not, some not picking it up, some not hearing, and a lot of problems. Alright, Lennox, okay.
All right,
Take
good.
care.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I need to make some further adjustments then. I need to make some further adjustments, and I know that people didn't hear me earlier too because I had the mic in studio off. Let me see if I could reset or undo what I did earlier because I thought I might have been able to address that problem. Let me see. I don't know what to do. I really am at a loss, but I will. Really at a loss. I don't know what has to be done. Let me try something again to see whether or not we can get the desktop audio that is in train. Then of course we have to do monitoring only. I don't know what has happened there. Monitor off. I'm just trying something again to see. Monitor off. So when the next caller calls, I will see whether or not it has been remedied. But so long as that you are getting me, well, I suppose that is insufficient. But that is not the intent. So I'll have to consult with Cuff as to why it is that the telephone is not registering and you are not benefiting from the discussion and the information that is being brought in or provided by those callers. All right. So why you see me a bit hesitant is because I'm looking to see and I'm thinking as to what could go wrong. So I am multi-thinking, you have multitasking. Well, I'm multi-thinking at the same time. But I just want to say that, of course, that question of Naikwan, you see it blown up there, and then, of course, after that, Rowley again cut the ribbon. 2 weeks afterwards, it blows up, and then, of course, after that, another explosion that caused took the life of a Neelan Masi worker who was a gas delivery worker, I suppose, who was installing something, and it blew up and killed him. But that one that you saw there, you are seeing there, the original one, as the report said, the blast was felt and heard as far as La Brea. And if you have an appreciation as to where the Naikwan or the Pointe-à-Pierre refinery is still, of course, mothballed, you will understand the same compound, and to hear it quite in La Brea, it has to be a huge morning explosion. People were waking to some nuclear bomb type noise that it turned out to be the Naikwan plant blowing up early in the morning. And I say early in the morning specifically because, as you heard, the residents, they were afraid. They got up to that kind of trauma, and they are asking, of course, and still asking for that matter to be remedied and to get jobs. But I suppose that is a place that they wouldn't want to get employed, because of the dangers. They could lose their lives. And I was making the point about Dr. Rowley at the ribbon cutting ceremony to inaugurate or to initiate the highway from Point 14 to San Fernando. But I was also making the point that Jusamco, a subsidiary of Junior Sammy, a company that Rowley mentioned, well, they constructed a section of that highway near Mosquito Creek, and the entire thing fell into the sea or into the swamp below. Again, demonstrating a kind of blight, a kind of macabre, a kind of really and truly evil that has pervaded Trinidad and Tobago, simply because evil exists in the highest public and executive offices in the country. I am convinced. And it was Camille Robinson Regis that talked about, of course, ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. I say ungratefulness is worse than obia and voodoo. That is what we know. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Pleasant good night.
Good night, and all on the chat too.
Yes.
Yeah, good night, to all those on the chat. Good night.
Good night.
All right. Yeah. I want to find out, is this the same kind of system, the Nikon business that you have to have on the program here? Is this the same thing that Malcolm Jones had tried and lost all this money? Is this same kind of system?
Yes.
And how they could make the same mistake twice?
Yes, same.
Yes.
Same. Just to liquid. You heard Dr. Rowley. It is unique. He is desperately wanting to make history and to appear to be unique and to, of course, generate something that is so stupendous, so spectacular that nobody else noticed. Every time he makes that effort, he talked the same way about sandals, and that is a game changer. All those kind of talk he would talk with respect, of course, to the foray into tourism, because oil and gas, you can't depend on it. All that talk he talked with sandals. And of course his minions will say 500 million when it is up and running. Not a blasted cent. Not a cent, people. He talked about, of course, a sea bridge after sending back Galicia and saying that he will not allow the people of Tobago to be subjected to that tragedy or that travesty, suggesting that the UNC was corrupt in their deployment and their engaging and their contracting of the Galicia. And what he replaced it with? A barge, people, resulting, of course, in the decimation of the economy of Tobago. A barge and other experiments. And when we looked at it, it was people connected to the PNM, not even the people who he replaced as to service the two passenger vessels at the time, the Spirit and the other one. It bring local people connected to the PNM, and they failed there too. So much so that when Dr. Rowley was questioned as to his first term in office after 5 years between 2015 and 2020, he admitted that if he had to do something different, he would not have sent away Bay Ferries, the company that the UNC had left there to maintain those boats. And he confessed that to Tobago. Why you think Tobago is so damn upset and have literally excommunicated him from their physical territory, from their terma firma, their territory, their physical space? They don't want him. And we in Trinidad must not accommodate vagrants that are so damn destructive and leaving a trail of total anarchy, evil and destruction. We must jettison that. We must engage in, of course, in what Father Harvey would have been engaged in when he most despicably and dishonestly performed a ritual and exorcism, claiming that the UNC was bad, and it turned out that he really laid the foundation for the kind of evil that possessed Trinidad and Tobago moving forward from 2015. From 2015, only evil and evil and evil. So much so that he, Father Harvey, before he went to St. George's as the bishop there, representing the Catholic Church, he said two significant things happened. One was that he was hog-tied in Gonzales at the presbytery there. Hog-tied. A priest hog-tied. A Catholic priest hog-tied. And they robbed his tail. And when he went to Grenada, clearly because of what he has done and a confession that he has done wrong to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, he told his parishioners in Grenada, listen, in one of his sermons, don't get involved in politics. He tell them that, but he haven't gotten involved in politics, defending Rowley and others because he was a good friend of Maurice Marshall, because Maurice Marshall, of course, and him are on the board of what is called the Laventil Foundation, I believe it is. No, the Maurice Marshall Foundation up on the hill. And he was instrumental there. And I had a personal encounter that I will share with you sometime in the future, only to say that these people are not only hypocrites, but they are despicable, and that they gravitate to evil, and of course will mislead people. And as we know, the devil also has its followers, as Rowley has, and those followers that come on the live or elsewhere, we need not only to identify them, but we need, of course, to brand them and to excise them from any engagement by the force of pure knowledge, understanding, and a greater ability to, of course, convince based on credible and irrefutable evidence. They will talk about woman parts and so on, but they cannot engage in a serious discussion as Dr. Rowley and on the ground report this morning. I also challenge every single minister to a debate, whether it be on the ground report or right here on the corridor transformation, I versus all of them, in terms of their policies, programs, and where Trinidad and Tobago ought to be and where we should be going. But clearly, like blind mice, and with, of course, a one-eye leader. Well, in blind man country, one-eyed man is king, and they see Rowley as some kind of what I consider to be one-eyed king. But not for us, because we have 2020 vision, and we have, if I could ascribe that as well, 2020 intelligence, and our cerebral and intellectual rationalization and capacity to understand, utilizing all of our senses, seeing, smelling, hearing, and of course analyzed by common sense and the intelligence, or the, as Rowley said the last time, what the cranium houses. But he talked about in my cranium, and believe that the cranium and brain is the same. No, the cranium is a box, is the set of bones in which the brain is housed and operate from. Just a little bit of biology, just in case. Human and social, well, human biology. But that being as it may, the fact of the matter is that Naikwan is another a victim of Dr. Rowley's blight and curse. And so there is a need for exorcism of this government and the eradication and annihilation of this government. And we will continue to suffer those kinds of impurities in terms of policies and programs, once they are in office. It is too much not to be concerned. So I am just saying that don't be surprised if another incident takes place. And in fact it did. As we are talking, that 2 persons died before the day before or the morning before Rowley came to cut the ribbon for that highway. And there was a shootout between bandits and the police the morning before Rowley came to open the highway. So it has already started. My apology. And so the recent development with respect to Naikwan, and it's, apart from it blowing up twice, it's its financial challenge, its financial quagmire. And very recently, Carifix, I believe it is, I will get it for you in a while, the Caribbean rating agency, something similar to S&P and the other like Fitch in France, that determine your viability as an institution and capable of attracting credit or capital or money from lending agencies. Well, Caricris downgraded recently Naikwan. They wouldn't tell you that. Tomorrow, of course, I will elaborate on it on the ground report to make certain that everybody knows. Another blight on the part of Dr. Rowley. Another inept, dotish but attempt, of course, to project himself as some kind of guru that does not exist in the person of Rowley, and has succeeded in untold embarrassment to Trinidad and Tobago, and of course questions our collective intellect, our collective psyche, and whether or not we are mad people to have found and put into those sacred and lofty offices that bunch of opportunistic political criminals that have on every significant score disappointed, destroyed, and generated a level of incompetence unprecedented and unacceptable for any average Trinbagonian, far less for the embarrassed individuals out there in the rest of the hemisphere and the world at large. We saw it demonstrated on at the podium at the United Nations. We saw it demonstrated here in Trinidad. We saw it demonstrated in Canada recently, and we can go on and on. This government is a moving disaster. A moving disaster. A hurricane, a tsunami, an earthquake, and a volcano, and of course a twister all in one. A twister all in one. That is the level of destruction that has been meted out to Trinidad and Tobago today by this man. Let's hear him again. Let's hear him again as he tells us and project us, as he did with Sandals, as he did with the Sea Bridge, as he did with the closing of Petrotrin, as he did with the investment in Train 1 Atlantic LNG, waste of time, as he did by constructing a highway to nowhere, the highway to Manzanilla, and we can go on and on. Listen to him once more.
As he officially opened Naikwan Energy's gas-to-liquid plant at Pointe-a-Pierre on Monday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the plant was a prime example of successful development.
In 2018, when Naikwan acquired the plant, Petrotrin received a cash payment of $10 million US, with the remaining $25 million US to be paid in preference shares in the new venture.
A new energy plant has taken up residence in Pointe-a-Pierre. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley opened Nequan Energy's gas to liquids plant on Monday, hailing it as a triumph for the country.
Notice the financial arrangement. He ain't saying nothing about the 100 million that his government facilitated in borrowing from the Republic Bank owned by the government. Notice that, consequential of the CL financial arrangement. Notice that several known individuals are on the board of Nequan, connected to the PNM. And of course, he did not tell us as well. A special company was designed directly connected to the Minister of Energy, Short Young, for supplying gas. So, and yet still, as the caller rightly said, to produce the same gas to liquid that its predecessor disaster, let me put it, is the same compound, the same iron and steel contraption, but different players. Yes, you're quite right, my friend. It is the same facility that was bought for small money. Small money by the Nequan owner. They even went to court for it, but got it. Gill, the same man, as I said, that organized the telephone call from Trump to Rowley. Yeah, they have a very exquisite network designed to fleece and attack the treasury of the country, and they must now absolve themselves by staying in office and pretending that it never happened. Not this wrongs. They didn't cater for, of course, a corridor transformation. A GOG report that its tenacity is unprecedented, as well as, of course, a Victor Roberts, and of course Anthony Roberts, and we can go on and on as others come on the scene to do what? To give the information as it is, because you too are suffering from the same experiences, and therefore our credibility cannot be questioned. Dr. Rowley can, however, as he tries to use his juggernaut position and the resources of the PNM to deflect attention and to generate the illusions that we have seen that they are so intent on doing. What has happened as a consequence after he gave that big speech? After he gave that big speech, this is what transpired.
Before Nequan started to cover this battle this morning, I want to prevent investigation. From the us to the EMA and the Minister of Energy. Ministry. Before Nequan tried to cover this bacchanal and hazard that happened this morning in Marabella. Marabella people come out and support. It is serious. Before they started the plan, EMA of Nequan, they don't receive all clearance and certificate before the plan starts, because I think Ribbon got here, somebody come and got a ribbon here, so everything's supposed to be clear.
You know who they're talking about, right? Rowley cut the ribbon for the openings. Everything's supposed to be declared. They know that the man is a consummate and unadulterated blight.
The investigation team investigating report, maintenance report, and test report before anything starts up here, because this is a bomb. Marbella people have been suffering for the longest time in Marbella. It's fire, it's bomb, it's oil. Children traumatized this morning with this bomb. People glass break. Children can't go and sleep again. They can't do it. They're traumatized. Go running. People glass shutter. And nobody has come to see us as yet.
The Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, the Environmental Management Authority, and the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services are all likely to be busy over the next few days, as these three state agencies are now investigating the circumstances which led to Wednesday's blast at the Nikwan gas to liquids plant. At 6:30 a.m., an explosion from the company's plant, located on the compound of the Pointe-a-Pierre refinery, sent shockwaves across the countryside. People who reside as far as the village of Siparia, Cuba, and even distant Labray reported hearing the explosion.
But that's not all. That's not all. Recently, if you look in today's papers, you will see that there is a development that is troubling because it has impact for our treasury and taxpayers, and that is the Caricris entity, Caricris, C-A-R-I-C-R-I-S, Caricris, the regional, what I consider to be rating agency is similar to that of the PSNP and the other international rating agencies have just downgraded. They have downgraded. Yes, they have downgraded Nikwan. And let me just read for you what it says. Caricris lowers Nikwan's ratings. And it says the Caribbean Information and Credit Rating Service Limited, Caricris, has lowered the assigned credit rating of Nikwan Energy Trinidad Limited to Carib on the regional rating scale and the TTB on the Trinidad and Tobago national scale. So Carib B or Caribe, and then of course in Trinidad TTB. So that is a lowering of the rating. And I want to let you know that when these institutions make such decisions, it means that you'll catch your tail in cooling countries to get credit wherever. And Trinidad and Tobago has been downgraded as well. And therefore you have to borrow money at higher interest rates. And that does not take away the reckless behavior of this government. Because recently, coming out of COVID, they said that they were to get at 1% a loan from, I think, either the IMF or the World Bank, and refused it, but took a loan from China for about 3 to 4%. And Rowley and Imbert's excuse for that higher rate interest for the same amount of money that they want to borrow is that they could do, China does not ask them or tell them what to do with the money. But of course, in the case of the IMF, they want to see details that the money is spent for what it was intended, because they know governments deflect and dive and of course appropriate monies that they say, let's say for roads, they could divert it to Balize House and the finishing of the construction. So they don't want that. They want the Chinese money, because the Chinese will not ask them how, just pay them back at our expense. But I want to tell you, I'm saying that for a very specific reason. You see, it was Dr. Rowley, as you learned last night, was saying that the UNC had a right to borrow the money to construct the highway to Point 14. and that they were funding it, financing it out of the consolidated fund. As money comes in by way of taxes, they pay OAS. And Rowley said that that was corruption. I can't see it because, of course, you would have to pass through a number of bureaucratic and red tape in order for a check to be made out. Even though it may be initiated by the Ministry of Finance that is responsible for the paying of all public servants and the acquisition of goods and services by the state. That is what a major function of the finance ministry is, and must be signed, of course, by the sitting minister. But there are other bureaucrats down the road, that including the PS and so on, the major accounting officer in these ministries, that are supposed to see everything above board. But Rowley in that case see in others that which is in him, because he will do that. It is clear, because that is what transpired in Tobago and created the controversy, because the central administrative authority that is nestled in the office of the Prime Minister in Tobago, Rowley wanted his choice, and that is what triggered the bacchanal between Farley and Rowley, and Rowley, of course, causing the police in Trinidad to go behind our audio tape. I mean, this is ridiculous. Our audio tape purported to be, of course, the voice of voices of people known, but including Farley, and gone behind Farley, because Farley said that he, Rowley, engaged with, of course, the leader of the PNM in Tobago and the Commissioner of Police and others to undermine and to destabilize Tobago, but undermine his authority and administration. So he went to the House of Assembly there and tell it as it is. And Rowley was most upset but could do nothing about it. He went behind the whistleblower as opposed to directly addressing Farley. Just as how, of course, when I consistently for 5 years called Rowley a rapist and a pedophile, instead of coming directly to me, he goes after the radio station, and of course members of his office, asking for tapes that I would have said about Rowley, and claiming that those things that I've said about Rowley being a pedophile and a rapist, and I still confirm that and will not stop that is not true. Rowley has to say it's not true, and you know what direction I'm going to make sure that he proves me lying on him. But I'm just making the point of the level of scrutiny that has to go, and checks and balances that has to go into delivering a check. But Rowley was strident that was something bad. That was something bad. They should have gone to the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, the World Bank, and so on and so forth, IMF, etc. That is the kind of talk he was talking. But now that they have the opportunity to now engage these very institutions who have stringent measures that will, of course, you have to adhere if you want the money. In a Rowley administration, he's now saying he preferred to go to the Chinese because they don't have those restrictions. What a level of hypocrisy, and a criminal that, of course, has polluted our executive office and therefore our prime minister or prime ministerial office in this country. Yeah, he said that recently. He in Bird said that they prefer to go, of course, with the consent of Rowley. But he is all self-righteous and indignated, and suddenly he's a paragon of virtue because he wants to create unmerited or get unmerited moral and ethical points when he is clearly the scum and ought to be the scum of the earth. as a Trinbago and the most hated person in the country, and will be the most hated prime minister ever future. And we know, of course, clearly when you compared him to the past prime ministers. So I thought it was important, of course, to lay that very clear. That is what he created here in this country. But let's continue with the report of Carrie Chris on Naikwan, and it continues, of course, in a release. This article in the Newsday today, you can check it. In a release on Tuesday, Carrie Chris said, so that's very recent. These a day ago. These ratings indicate weak credit worthiness of Naikwan, so nobody wants to invest in that. Adjudged in relation to other obligators in the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Jamaica. In other words, those persons who they're owing, they can't pay, and therefore Carrie Chris has downgraded them. It added the lowering of the assigned ratings reflects Naikwan's inability to attain full commercial operations at the nameplate capacity by September 30th, identified as a factor that could lead to a lowering of the rating in its March report and the termination of the gas sales contract by Trinidad and Tobago Upstream Downstream Energy Operations Company Limited. So built into that arrangement is Trinidad, a company that was created by the government to take all of the items that would have been produced by Naikwan. They got guaranteed a sweetheart deal and cannot take advantage of it. And yes, caller, you are right. It is the Malcolm Jones number 2 revisited. Yes, indeed. Malcolm Jones is as if it is cloned. A cloned Malcolm Jones scenario, gas to liquid. And Rowley, of course, you heard him boasting as he did with the Sandals matter, and as he did, of course, with the Dragon Gas and so many others, including, of course, the closing down of Petrotrin and giving high ratings to, of course, our oil company heritage. And at the end of the day, all of it turned out to be disaster, pie in the sky, and to the detriment of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's continue. Carrie Chris notes the considerable progress made by Naikwan in achieving a proven plant producing zero sulfur diesel and naphtha and transferring 15,000 barrels of product to its off-taker Paria Fuel Trading Company. So it did produce something, but clearly it is not enough, so they had to downgrade them. We will consider revising its ratings upward upon the successful resumption of a long-term gas supply contract together with a successful refinancing of the existing short-term note instrument into a long-term facility, the release said. So in other words, the money that they borrow from Republic Bank, if they could get it refinanced and so on, then Carrie Chris will reconsider and possibly give them a different rating. But the way how they are going, it looks as though they will be further downgraded in a few months' time. But Carrie Chris added, it may further lower the rating. So I was correct, may further lower the ratings if the that arrangement, that investment, that money that they cannot get refinanced so far is not financed or extended by December 31st, or if any other credit negative events occur before that date. So by December, if they do not get the Republic Bank to refinance, and Rowley typical, has distanced himself from the project now. Yeah, he said that the extent to which the government was interested is because it was contributing potentially to its diversification plan. But now that it is in dire straits, Dr. Rowley distanced himself, and it is not untypical of Rowley to look for escape hatch when he would have already invested and put Trinidad and Tobago in jeopardy. We saw it, of course, when he said he know nothing about Vincent Nelson. But up and down the place, he was talking about Pamasa and who Vincent Nelson is. He is a UK senior counsel, and he has agreed to be state witness, and that is not for the first time. The buffoon doesn't know that cannot happen in the way that they have by paying a state witness in a criminal trial. You can't pay anybody. You pay $10 million and of course give him an arrangement where of course he can escape, including of course getting a presidential pardon. All of that was in an indemnity agreement that was pursued and signed on behalf of the government by Al-Rari, and all Rowley did was very cosmetic. He moved Al-Rari, bringing of course another liar in the form of Limor, and then say that the cabinet didn't know anything. You blasted liar, you are a thief, you are evil, you are wicked, you are dangerous. You cannot be up and down the country saying who Vincent Nelson is, and he was a QC, and of course he is there to do what? To put Kamla Prasad Bisasa and others behind bars. That is what you said, Rowley. You dangerous son of a gun. You cannot escape. But like the little child, he will not stop until the hot cup of water he pulls down on himself, because that is, in political terms and in common sense terms, brinksmanship. He takes you to the edge because he believes that he can engage in that kind of what I consider to be on the edge, heading for a precipice disposition and conduct, and stay in the office of Prime Minister honky-dory and pretending that he did not do anything. The evil you do, Rowley, will follow you, and evil could never prevail over good. Understand that. Let's go to conclusion of this statement by Carrie Chris, the regional credit rating agency, on NICWAN. In September, NICWAN said its plant was offline because the government was withholding its natural gas supply. All right. But Rowley all made it clear. He cut his losses. He pick up his marbles and gone. He no longer wants to be that, because his name will be calling, and his political greed to stay in office will of course be further downgraded and reach the level of the white line in the road. That is how low Rowley's credibility is, and nobody takes him serious, and he knows it, and therefore he is trying of course to avoid a further erosion of whatever he has left, which of course is none whatsoever. In August, NICWAN filed an injunction against the company that was supposed to be providing the gas created by Rowley and them for that purpose, to force the state to resume its natural gas supply. Justice Kevin Ramcharan dismissed the application. NICWAN has since appealed the injunction. Also last month, the Prime Minister Rowley insisted that government has assisted in every way to ensure NICWAN's success. Dr. Rowley said the government had no reason to see Naikwan fail. And of course, it is quoted Dr. Rowley now, Naikwan and the government cooperated in introducing to our economy some element of economic expansion. You know, in his usual, should I say, cacophonous as well as ambulatory, and of course, his use of semantics and circumlocution and hyperboles and old talk, really, that is what he's engaged in. And hear what he says in addition to what went before. That's the singular basis on which the government was involved with Naikwan. A private business he said. So he done with that. In other words, he saying now it's a private business, but he went and cut the ribbon for its inauguration. Naikwan is reportedly US 250 million in debt. In other words, it is in 250 million US dollars in debt, Naikwan. So people, there you have it. And why, of course, I switched from and one disaster to another disaster unfolding. And by no means that fiasco with respect to the highway to Point Fortin and OS is over. But that has a parallel disaster that is unfolding as well in the presence of Naikwan. So people, stay tuned. You're going to get more as we continue, of course, to look at these complex, but we will try to be as simplified, to simplify it for you as much as possible. There is another, of course, clip I would like to share with you on this matter. Let's go straight to it one time. This is what it had to say.
Struggling with $250 million US debt. Naikwan Energy Trinidad Limited's gas to liquids, GTL, plant in Pointe-à-Pierre. By Asha Javed. Lead editor investigations. Naikwan Energy is facing a cash crunch challenge. As it stands, the company has more than $250 million US TT $1.7 billion, in debt, and it is struggling to meet payments to the tune of millions owed to contractors, including Junior Sammy and Massey Energy Engineered Solutions Limited, MES. While in some instances it has been able to work out payment plans, like with TNT Upstream Downstream Energy Operation.
Yes indeed, that is the reality. So you're getting
they are still awaiting payments.
Naikwan was set to refinance its bonds to the tune of $300 million US TT $2 billion by July 31st, but the accident at its plant on June 15, which led to the death of 35-year-old Ramkisar Alan Lane Ramkisar, set it back. The company's founder and chief visionary officer Ainsley Gill has been holding talks with financiers and updating investors in an effort to raise sums, even short-term from high-worth investors, as it was able to do before the April 2021 accident. Gill, a former U.S.-based lobbyist in Washington, D.C. under the Manning administration, invested in the abandoned plant to turn it into the Western Hemisphere's first gas-to-liquids plant. The company has been holding talks with financiers and updating investors in an effort to raise sums, even short-term, from high-net investors, as it was able to do before the April 2021 accident. A report done by regional rating agency Kerry Chris in March noted that at December 2022, Naikwan's total debt stood at $218.7 million US, a 416.6% increase from 2018, and is projected to further increase to $312 million US as at December 2023. In our view, the company has reduced the company's financial flexibility alongside delayed payments to the aisle, has resulted in our lowering of the cash flow adequacy and financial flexibility rating parameter of Naikwan Energy, Kerry Chris said. Local investors to fund its operations, Naikwan raised money on the international bond market, and sums from local investors. According to the company's filings dated June 5, 2023 include 1. Banks Republic Bank Limited and RBC Trust Trinidad and Tobago Limited. 2. Insurance company Beacon Insurance Company. 3. Investment companies First Line Securities, Prime Capital Limited, JMMB Securities Limited, Waterloo Capital Advisors, KCL Capital Market Brokers Limited, Inchalot Investments. 4.
4. Firms Farm Chem Engineering Management Limited, Homes Limited, GM Homes Limited, MNJ Services Limited, Central Finance Facility Cooperative Society of Trinidad and Tobago Limited, and Washington D.C. Registered Nikwan Energy LLC, the company's largest shareholder, 10,702,216 ordinary shares. 5. Individual investors which include Nikwan's board members and former permanent secretary and Ministry of Finance, Alison Lewis, and Nikwan's chairman John Andrews. While some investors are concerned about whether they will be repaid, others have expressed confidence in Gil's ability to make Nikwan's gas to liquids plan successful and reward its investors. Nikwan has had 5 extensions to repay its first bond. The company met with challenges trying to get the plant, which at one point was relegated to scrap metal, up and operational. Those challenges were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Natural gas challenge for the company to access insurance money of $94 million from the first accident in April 2021 to show that it has been producing product ideally up to 2,640 barrels per day. For a consistent 4-month period, while it has produced small amounts for on-road sale to area trading, it hasn't yet reached that capacity. Following the first accident, it only received approval from the MEEI in September 2022 to restart. One of its challenges has been its inability to secure a steady supply of natural gas. Nikwan's contracts with the Tudiacolis for 31 million standard cubic feet per day, MMSCF or less than 1%, approximately 0.8% TNT's daily gas supply. Sources natural gas from the National Gas Company, NGC. Industry sources told the Sunday Guardian that Nikwan owed Tudiacal significant sums, and because of that debt, gas was stopped.
Yes, indeed. Let me just
owes more than $10 million to the NGC.
Yes, indeed.
While a payment plan was agreed for Nikwan to pay to the company is still challenged for natural gas. At present, on the point, 4 plants on the point leases industrial estate are down as a result of natural gas shortage.
Sorry about that. Just had a little yes, a pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Yes, I'm hearing you. Welcome.
A pleasant good night to you and everybody on the live, Lennox.
Right.
Lennox.
Yes.
You sure you hear anything about the opposition leader? About the show?
Yeah, I have heard nothing, and they have.
Because I seen on Facebook here people wishing she could get well, you know.
That is a PNM propaganda gimmick. Come on, man, you must know that.
You hear what I said?
Yeah, but the people's the official.
Yeah, but what I I seen.
But she came out and make a statement. That's all.
Yeah, go ahead, listen to me.
I said she came out and make a statement, one, and the
I don't know, that was asking because I've seen on Facebook, the people wish.
That will happen because of the PNM propaganda. That's a woman that they fear, you know. You know what I mean? So anything to deflect attention, don't be too concerned, about that development. And she would say so in a statement. She's not going to hide it. For what? There is no benefit to hide it. So therefore, if it is in fact so, we will know in due course. But the official position of the UNC is that is not so. Hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, because like I said, I just see it on Facebook where people wishing she to get better.
Yeah, I hear you.
That is what I see here.
Yeah, but the hypocrisy of the PNM propagandists will do that. I mean, I'm clearing my mind. They have made a formal statement that is not so. She has, I think she went to one of the Ramlali events. So I am very comforted, and I'm comfortable that that is a PNM trick to try to deflect attention from things like Nikwan and so on, what we are talking about. All right? So don't be too perturbed at this point. All right? The facts will reveal itself. Okay then. Bye-bye. Yes, indeed. Yes, of course. That is PNM propaganda. Let's get down with it. It's 30 minutes past 10 already. I don't want to go up till 11 o'clock. So let's go straight and finish this piece with Nikwan. We need to get the information in, and we have to be very meticulous and focused.
In the country following a safety incident at Woodside Energy. Neither the MEEI nor the NGC can say when the issue will be resolved. The Sunday Guardian was told that Nikwan is considering legal action against the MEI for their contracted gas. An industry source explained that the company is in a challenging position as if it does not get gas, it can't operate and push the plant for production. Further, the company's cash-strapped position makes it inflexible to continue operating until it gets injections. Raising money. Kerry Chris noted that if Nikwan was not able to achieve optimal production by June 30th, it would affect its ability to refinance the existing notes or obtain approval for a further extension by note holders by July 31st. The inability to achieve certification of full nameplate capacity of 2,400 barrels per day adversely impacted the company's ability to secure timely refinancing. While an extension by note holders was granted resulting in a revised maturity date of December 2022, the company is currently awaiting approvals from its senior secured note holders to further extend the short-term note instrument, STNI, to the end of July 2023, its fifth consecutive extension in refinancing. The continuous delays in refinancing, which includes the capitalization of interest and consent fees, have resulted in an increasing level of debt year-on-year, YOY, since 2018. As a result, the company is now seeking to issue a 10-year $300 million bond by July 2023, up from $200 million previously, thereby negatively impacting its financial risk profile as key projected debt servicing metrics weakened from our last report, the report said. Kerry Chris said two of the company's key risks were consistently high and rising debt levels over the past few years, thus constraining financial flexibility, and recurrent operational challenges resulting in the inability of the GTL plant to achieve nameplate capacity at 2,400 BPD in a timely manner. These operational challenges hindered NETL's ability to collect revenue and make required timely payments for its gas supply and debt obligations as planned, it said. Nikwan's response. The Sunday Guardian sent questions to Nikwan on July 21st and on July 29th. On behalf of Nikwan, Alfred Iquitan, chairman of Ample, said, Nikwan Energy Trinidad Limited remains committed to being as transparent as is legally permissible and commercially sensible, but regrettably is unable to divulge information on confidential corporate financial matters for your submission today, Friday 21/7/23. Nikwan welcomes the interest of the media and vicariously the general public in all its operations, but is required to observe applicable confidentiality, contractual and legal boundaries on such disclosure. We appreciate all ongoing communication which will be of mutual benefit. Kamla wants Imbird to come clean on GTL sale. By Charlene Rampersad. Opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisesa is questioning whether any due process was followed by Finance Minister Colm Imbird to give approval to Petrotrin to sell its failed World Gas to Liquid, GTL, plant to Nikwan Energy Limited. Speaking during the UNC's Monday night forum in Rio Claro, Prasad Bisesa said Nikwan was set up only to acquire the plant and was not involved in any other business ventures. She is alleging that the deal was brokered by four officials linked to the PNM. In March, an announcement was made that the GTL
Malcolm
plant
Jones,
would be sold to
number
Energy
2.
for $35 million, with $10 million being paid in cash and the remaining $25 million in preferential shares in Nikwan. So tonight I have some questions for the Finance Minister Colm Imbird. Did you seek the guidance of the Standing Committee on Energy before you approved the sale of the GTL plant to Nikwan? And who is on that Standing Committee? The same people from way back when, Prasad Bisesa asked. It has been reported the company, Nikwan, does not have a GTL plant or a track record to anything, far less relating to a GTL plant. So the question I am asking is what due diligence has been conducted in making a decision to sell this plant to this company? She claims Nikwan was set up only to acquire the GTL plant. She added, and there are more reasons for us to be worried because our research shows us that although the parent company, Nikwan Energy LLC, was incorporated in March 2008, its website tells us that the parent company is not involved in any other activity other than buying this failed GTL plant in Trinidad. In fact, Nikwan Energy Trinidad director and CEO has noted in interviews that the company was created here in Trinidad in July 2012. Sounds familiar with their modus operandi? Set up ghost companies and come for taxpayers' benefits. The company was created in July 2012, and what was it created for? As a vehicle to buy the GTL plant, that's it, nothing else. They created the company for that purpose. Prasad Bisesa said the deal between Nikwan and Petrotrin was tied up. You have these four energy czars, officials, and the story continues because you know what they have now sold the failed GTL plant to a company called Nikwan. They've sold it for a song and a dance when it cost you and our country $3.3 billion. They sold it for $10 million to Nikwan Energy. Quoting from a 2014 High Court ruling which stated Nikwan has no assets other than its goodwill and reputation, Prasad Bisesa said there was no guarantee TNT would benefit at all from the Nikwan/Petrotrin deal. The court also noted, and I quote, save for its right under the exclusivity agreement, Nikwan has no assets other than the goodwill and the reputation of punitive namesake and its own goodwill and reputation. You know what that means in my understanding? It means Nikwan is broke. They have no money. And it goes further, it means if we do business with Nikwan, who has disclosed seem to have no money, that will be a very grave financial risk to TNT and to Petrotrin, and there is no guarantee the country would benefit from this project, and it is a gold mine. She also questioned the conditions of the sale, saying it is cloaked in a cloud of PNM secrecy. The company is not expected to pay for anything for the plant until the year 2018, they don't have to pay nothing, it is you the taxpayer that has to continue to pay to the tune of $3.3 billion. We don't know the terms and conditions, and based on the track record of the Rowley administration, we will never know until it is too late, just like with the GTL plant.
So people, there you have it. There you have it. Kamla Prasad Bisesa typically on the ball and warned the country. The entire thing is now an unfolding disaster. And Rowley, typical, washing his hands and saying he was never involved. It was a private entity that the government tried to assist because they have no interest in making it fail. But it's another unfolding disaster simply because Rowley was involved and the PNM is involved. That's all. As is the case when Rowley and the PNM is in government, more murders than any other time. And when they are not in government, murders reduce. Well, progress will resume when Rowley and they are out of government.
As he officially opened Nikwan Energy's gas-to-liquid plant,
this is the final, of course.
Monday, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the plant was a prime example of successful development.
In 2018, when Nikwan acquired the plant, Petrotrin received a cash payment of $10 million US.
Of course, Kamla Prasad Bisesa questioned that because it was 25 million, but cash money 10, and they have until a time to pay, similar to what they did with, of course, Roger and the OWTU. But when Trafigura, Venezuelan company, was supposed to be financing it, and they wanted only them to finance it, but the Americans got to find out, they abandoned the whole thing, and today, of course, at our expense, that entire oil refinery is now mothballed and cannot, and is non-functional and cannot function because of, again, a conman and criminal behavior and greed of this government.
With the remaining $25 million US to be paid in preference shares in the new venture.
A new energy plant has taken up residential of the southern part of the island.
And Minister of Energy, before Nikwan start to cover this battle this morning, I want a proper investigation. From the us, to the EMA, and the Minister of Energy. Before Nikwan start to cover this
I have a political cemetery. It's not for people like you and me. It is for all them politicians, and I dig in their grave, no fuck with me hand. I find some of them, they living too long, and every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead, just shame to lie down, so I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he, with joy in my heart, put him down with glee. All of them useless politicians, only making up numbers in my island. Al-Rari, I refuse body, I leave them Muslim, them to deal with he.
Of course, we have come to the end of tonight's exercise. I trust that you, again, were well informed. I know that there is some technical difficulties with the system, but we will. I know that. Of course, the tenacity, and as I've always said, the longest journey begins with what? A single step. And these are single steps that we are taking towards, of course, making certain that we bring quality as well as a very, should I say, relevant information to you so that you could make your own decisions as to how you will act and respond to this travesty that is the Rowley criminal enterprise called the PNM, and bring it to justice. We have a duty and responsibility. Let's get back, of course, to the Lady Gypsy, as she says, where they should be.
Smile on my face and with maybe a hand. It's time to move trash from out of this land. I have a political cemetery. It's not for people.
And don't forget, of course, that tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Michael, myself, and of course, we are back here tomorrow night. As we continue, of course, with that situation with the other players, that total buffoons, nincompoops, and asinine attempts to try to hoodwink and deceive the population. We must have and will have none of it. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless, and don't forget tomorrow morning from 6 to 9. Andy, Mikey, and myself as we continue with these and other topics. Bye-bye.
People like you and me, it is for all them politicians, and I dig in their grave, no fuck with me hand. I find some of them, they living too long, and every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead, just shame to lie down, so I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he, with joy in my heart, put him down with glee. All of them useless politicians, only making up numbers in my island. Alrari, I refuse body, I leave them Muslim, them to deal with he. Big smile on my face and with maybe a hand. It's time to move trash from out of this land. Taking my time with he, I personally will prepare his body. Make sure he have a sardonic grin on his face. That's all he does do, that man is a waste. Bury he in the back of my cemetery, turn he upside down, he face I can see. Look for the strongest grave digger to cover he. Not with the hand, put good fork on he. Gypsy, political grasshopper, I may feel little pity cause he's my brother. But like Tarzan, he's swinging from vine to vine. It's time I help you to make up your mind. Fitzgerald, Rasta City, I know they go glad to get the body. Resi on beat and dumb for all to see. Drink 2 beers and watch Coco get happy. But Kamala, I not ready to bury. She is a strong, determined woman like me, and deserve a chance to run this country. When she in power, I don't go hungry. And Calypsonian does get big money. She don't deserve no spot in my cemetery. I putting she in the center of the city. Paula, you too damn lazy. You sit on a throne while women die daily. You deserve a nice spot in my cemetery. All you do is just collect big salary. Regis, you disappoint me with your racial tongue. You like you can see. Your baba does trim you with weed waka. All day all you do is sushila. Celebrate with you when PNM lost. One day you must come bust a line with me. We gon' knock a glass, make myself happy. I yadi that what you is to me. A grassroots man, stand up for country. I will stand by your side and watch you at work. Or if you falter, you're going to get fucked.